Down or hello, and welcome to the Cloud Show. I am Magnus Mårtensson, and we're back. We're back with another interesting topic. It's a complicated one, but it's very, very important to cover this because people will come and say, hey, how about we be on more than one cloud? I mean, we're such a big company. We can't just put all of our eggs in one cloud basket. No. We have to use more than one cloud because otherwise bad things will happen. Is that true? Or is that just something we need to converse about and see if there's another solution maybe? The guest of the show today is going to be Thair. He's one of my good friends, and he's a really, really experienced guy when it comes to these things. So welcome to the Cloud Show. Hello, my friend. How are you?
I'm very well, Magnus. How are you?
I'm so good. It's nice to be back here on the show and talk about a topic which is so interesting. I've had this conversation with many customers of mine that felt that, oh, we're such a big company, we're huge, we're this enterprise and all these things. So of course we can't just use one cloud. So they deliberately choose to use more than one cloud. And to differentiate, we're not talking about hybrid here when you have some things on premise. That's the reality for many. And then you start using the cloud, so you kind of extend to the cloud. No. They're deliberately doing this. They're saying we need to use more than one cloud. And I know you have some thoughts on this topic.
Oh, I have many thoughts on this topic. Unfortunately, we've only got 20 minutes. So I think first of all, my name's Thair. I'm former CTO of DevOps Group, ran a DevOps and cloud company for 10 years, been in the industry 30 years. I've been an RD for 5 or 6 years. I think we've really got to define what we mean by multi-cloud or a multi-cloud application. And I did a very quick survey on LinkedIn. I only got 55 responses, so it's not super accurate. But, it came back, the number of people running the same workload on multiple clouds was only 11%. Okay, so that's really my true definition of multi-cloud. A single application running on multiple clouds for whatever reasons that you need to do that. Different workloads per cloud, 56%.
Right.
All in on a single cloud, 27%, and other about 5%.
Yep.
And I think it's super interesting to, you and I both often work with very large enterprise organizations. Every enterprise organization that I've dealt with is multi-cloud. Not necessarily because they chose it. It's because one part of the business went one cloud and one part of the business went the other way because they were waiting for the central IT, or they acquired another company and the other company was on AWS, but historically they were on Azure, or vice versa, or, super interesting.
And what's interesting there, of course, with the larger the company, I mean, this can still be valid for a company that isn't all that large, but the larger the company, the more likely there will be some kind of a merger or acquisition scenario, and you get a company that's on another cloud, and then it's kind of not really your fault. But we're kind of indicating here that maybe it isn't the best idea in the world to use multi-cloud just to use more than one cloud platform. Should we try to specify a little bit what the challenges might be if you are targeting multi-cloud? What are you facing? What's going to happen? Why is this maybe not the best idea?
I think there's a couple of reasons. I mean, so my company, DevOps Group, we were AWS and Azure, sort of premier partners of both, just trying to maintain the skill sets for two clouds on the level of the people that you've got is incredibly difficult.
Yes.
So the skills, you're doubling the amount of skills that you're having. I think the next thing is all cloud services are tiered. So the more you consume, the lower per unit cost. So
now you're spreading over two. Mm-hmm.
And now I'm paying more than I would be if I had 100% on one. If all of my storage was in one place, I'm going to be paying a hell of a lot less unit price. I'm going to be spending, I'm going to be having probably more bargaining power. You know, I'm going to get a better, you know, Microsoft Azure commitment, you know, whatever EDP for AWS, but less than Microsoft Mac, you know, you're going to have more bargaining power. So I just think anybody who consciously, like, the number of organizations that truly need to be multi-cloud is very small. You know, even regulated financial services, you are supposed to have the ability to withstand the failure of the outsourced relationship, which some people interpret as meaning I must be multi-cloud. But does it though? It's not really what it says. It's interesting.
It's absolutely, you're absolutely right with that. I couldn't you know, agree more about the sort of the organizational issues, the woes you run into, and how you lose bargaining power. That's absolutely spot on. But what about the I mean, the advantages of being multi-cloud, if there are such? There are people are trying to put arguments out there saying, you know, it's good for us to not put all the eggs in one basket. Is that a valid argument?
No.
No.
I think no.
No, it isn't.
It's just not a valid argument. The complexity that you are adding by trying to be multi-cloud vastly outweighs the benefits. Be multi-region, you know, so be multi-availability zone, be multi-region. If you're in a situation where, you know, you have the need for that level of availability, that you need to go beyond multi-AZ and multi-region to multi-cloud, like if either of the or any of the big hyperscalers has failed so badly that an entire region has gone down and the region failover has gone down as well, like that's the least of your problems. Do you know what I mean? There's going to be so much else going on. All of your dependencies and all of those other, you know, people and customers and partners that you rely on, well, they're going to be down too. So that goes away. But the complexity that you've added, you know, the chances of failure goes up to the square to the number of moving parts. So the more moving parts you put in, the more chances of failure that you've got. So you're literally architecting in a higher chance of failure in order to avoid a failure which is extremely unlikely to occur if you've architected your application properly with multi-AZ and multi-region.
No, that sounds reasonable. And I have another, it's not a curveball, but I have another fun one that I really like in this context. If you manage to have a somewhat, you know, experienced team on one cloud, let's say let's use your two clouds as an example. You had experience with using AWS. You have a team on that, a team that does, you know, or multiple teams, or you have a center of excellence or whatnot of a cloud unit inside of your big enterprise that focuses on AWS. And then you have that one more time over again. You have another one except in Azure. So you have two of these. And you're trying to staff them, you're trying to get the right people in, and then there's this next workload or this next thing that's going to go to the cloud. And so what do you do as a company? Do you like go to both of these teams and say, hey guys, who wants to have this thing? And I mean, what is that going to happen to the internal politics, right?
It is very rare for a customer to come to us and say, please do a technical evaluation of Cloud A versus Cloud B, where we're going to be best in. And the reason for that is that the decision on which cloud you're going to go to isn't really a technical decision anymore. Like if we take the example of the London Stock Exchange. So the London Stock Exchange went with Microsoft, but at the same time, Microsoft bought 5% or something, or whatever what the number was, of the London Stock Exchange. You know, this was a hundreds of millions of dollar deal on both the buying shares and also the cloud side. These deals are being done way higher above the level of the IT director. So, you know, it's almost like, I mean, if you're a startup, sure, go to whichever one go to Azure because you're getting Azure credits through the Microsoft for Startups program or whatever. Great. Yeah. It's a lot more viable to make a decision at that small scale on purely technical, whatever's the service. I prefer Azure Cognitive Services to the competitors or whatever it may be. So I think that's, but in the reality for most organizations, it's not a technical evaluation decision. They come to us and say, we've signed our MAC, or, our enterprise agreement. We've got this commitment. We've now, committed to spending a certain amount of money. We've already gone down this pathway.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's not a thing as you put it. I actually did. Maybe it's not a common thing, but I actually did come to a customer once where they indicated that they had begun to have internal competition between the two cloud groups, which is another level of issue that you do not want to invite into your company, because that's certainly not going to amount to anything good at all. Our cloud is better.
I think having two cloud units within a single organization is a disaster. Like, if you're going to be multi-cloud, or de facto that you're going to be multi-cloud within your IT capability, they're either so far apart from each other that it doesn't matter, or you have one cloud unit that inherently says, these are the two clouds we support, or three clouds, because some people do three clouds, and then you structure it in, we prefer these types of workloads to go here. Maybe we like big data in one place, or analytics in one place. We like container apps in another place. We have another vendor that's better for highly distributed apps, with regional points of presence and things like that, for low latency applications, but try having any kind of internal conflict or that would be bad. It
would be bad. Yeah, and you shouldn't sort of fan those flames as an organization. No. There needs to be a strategic decision. And to that point, exactly, the current largest company that I work with right now, they're really big, and they've made the bet that is we're going with one cloud, happens to be Azure. That's why I'm there. Going to the Azure cloud, and we will not prohibit anyone from using another cloud platform if there is a good enough reason, and that is workload dependent. For example, they have some things that would be working best on what Oracle call a cloud. Now, I may have some issues with Oracle calling what their services. They're great services. They're wonderful services that service so many companies a cloud. I maybe have another definition of that, but they call it a cloud service, which they offer. And I'm not going to argue that. But there are some workloads that this big company run that are running on Oracle things and would be very well suited to run on Oracle Cloud. Brilliant. Do that. Now you have a reason, a real business reason, a technical reason. There is a situation
and a financial licensing reason.
Probably that, absolutely, probably that as well. And it can be also skills related. I mean, you have people that really know this stuff really well, and you have some time to market or whatnot. There's a deadline, something needs to be done. We know this best. Let's go there. This is what we know. This is going to work. Okay, then do that. But now you have thoroughly sat down and thought this through, and you have some kind of a reasoning and understanding, but still a strategy, right?
And what you've said the word strategy a couple of times there.
Yes.
It's strategy and leadership. At some level, somebody has made, I kind of talk about de facto multi-cloud versus de jure multi-cloud. Did you stumble into being multi-cloud, or was it a conscious choice and you had a strategy around it? And, I think most of the organizations I've seen, somebody talks about talks about like the paved road. If you want to go with this cloud, you get a paved road, and there's the repo with all the Terraform for patterns to do everything you need to do. And there's, the Azure DevOps or GitHub pipelines for everything you need to do. And it's just going to be, and you inherit all the security and all the compliance and all the monitoring or observability or whatever they call it these days, blah, blah, blah. But if you want to go over here and use DigitalOcean, well, you can, but you're supporting it yourself. You're writing all of this stuff, you're going off-road. And most people at that point, they look at it and go, the cost is, oh, well, I'm not going to go, it's not that much difference, it's great.
And you bring, absolutely. And you're bringing up such a valid point here as well. Operations. This is going to have to be managed and maintained by someone. So now you need to double down on those skills and those, you could be a company that actually does that 24/7 by yourself. But I see a lot with the enterprises that they actually rent that service. They pay someone else to be there around the clock. And so they need to hand over something.
Provided,
yeah, they're handing that over to someone who is operating it for them, and technically it's going to be challenging for them to receive all these applications if every application they get to operate is a unique snowflake. It's just different, each one. Yeah, that's not going to be good. I love how you brought it back.
We just on that, we used our pricing model was a tiered pricing based on the complexity of the application. So basically it was like cattle was one price, pets were another price. Exactly. If you want to give us snowflakes,
that's okay. But you're paying for that now. Absolutely 100%. Right. And that's the way to do it, because as an operating organization, if you have that business, you don't want to be in that mess when somebody just hands you this tangled spaghetti thing and she's like, here, take care of that, please. How's that going to even work? Brilliant. I also like, so we're coming to the end of the episode. I'm going to let you have the last say, but I really like how you brought it back to leadership. When I started talking about strategy, you started talking about leadership, and that's exactly what this show is about, to try to untangle the messes that come with someone saying something technical, or someone's just I shouldn't swear on the show, but basically just talking out of their behind because they don't know what they're saying. They're just saying something they heard. They heard multi-cloud is a good thing, and multi-cloud isn't necessarily a good thing, or isn't a good thing at all, actually.
I would say that the reality that you need multi-cloud, certainly for a single workload. Horses for courses, completely understand, there are some technical differences and some people, have preferences and there's licensing reasons. Great. Understand that, but understand that you're buying complexity or building in complexity and everything that you want from an operations point of view. My background is IT ops, you want to reduce that complexity. But I think if you're a leader and I've coached a number of people as a senior executive stakeholder, go and have a look at the Azure Cloud Adoption Framework. There is such good guidance in there, and just at the highest level about understanding your strategy. But when you look at CAF, like half of CAF is not related to technology at all. It's related to organizational structure and governance and process and all of this other stuff that you need to do. Because, I think the other thing I would always say, if you're a leader and you're leading this cloud transformation, is start with a blank sheet of paper. Don't take the same security controls. You might have the same security control objectives, but start with a blank sheet of paper. You're going to re-implement these controls in a new way. You're going to re-implement your monitoring in a new way. You're going to re-implement your networking in a new way. Whatever that thing may be, start with a blank sheet of paper. Because if you try and it's cheaper if we just take this stuff, from on-premise world to the cloud world. And I'm going, but why are you using some third-party network gateway that costs a fortune when you could use a default Azure one for scratch?
Absolutely right. I appreciate that so much. We've had the scenario just now where they're talking about access control and how they have central access control already set up on premises. So now that we're using the cloud, we're also going to use that same system to give access to the cloud. I'm like, oh wow, that's going to be hurtful. That's not going to work.
Does that include network transit to on premise in order to do Because I've literally seen that.
Fortunately not. This is just the access control management for managing access and tracing it. But even there, it's not a good idea, because you're taking data that was generated in the cloud out of the cloud and analyzing it elsewhere, which is just by no means a good idea. What you need to do is dig in and train your old security team to start to use cloud tools for cloud problems.
100%.
100%. Brilliant. So thank you for being on the show today, Steve. It was an absolute pleasure. And I think this is going to be a gem for the leader who tries to understand why multi-cloud isn't actually a very good thing at all.
Not at all. Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you for having me. It was really enjoyable.
Have a good evening.